Lead us, I'm sure. Please continue.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I knew that in the long run that was going to be the thing, but I felt trapped by my situation. I said, hey, I have to put food on the table. I have to provide shelter. I have obligations. And so the first step for me in making this transition was to start with my side job, right? So I had my job, and that was putting food on the table. And then my next job was to put myself into the realm of entrepreneur. And I got my real estate license as a residential realtor in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And it was cool. It was really nice because for the first time I had to focus on marketing. I started to learn all these skill sets, sales, communication. And it was cool. It took me years, but little by little, I started to. And it was cool. It took me years, but little by little, I paid off my student loans. I started to save up more quickly to be able to buy a second house, and all the while, my ambition was to become a real estate investor, but I didn't really know how that was going to happen. And when, I was saving up for years to be able to buy that third house. And during that time is when I first heard about apartment syndication. And I said, oh, as a realtor, I'm already doing a big chunk of the things that you need to be doing. I had a database. I was already communicating. I was already seen as a real estate expert by these people in my network. And I said, oh, instead of talking to people about buying and selling a house, I can talk to them about building wealth. I can talk to them about some of these other benefits. And so it was a pretty smooth transition. And I'll say I started to have those conversations, and within 2 or 3 weeks, I had maybe like $600,000-$700,000 in soft commitments from people who said, yeah, if you brought me a deal that looks like this, yeah, I'd give you 100. I'd give you 200. I said, wow, okay, this is going to be easy, It wasn't so easy, but hey, I said, okay, now I can go shopping. And I spent 2 years shopping for deals and underwriting and analyzing and negotiating and putting out offers and getting rejected and going again. And I'll say very specifically, the challenge that I had was I would underwrite a deal. And if it was a bad deal, I would pass on it. I said, oh, I can't make any money with this one. Let's move on to the next. But then I would underwrite another deal and it would look good. And then I said, oh, I must have done something wrong. So then I'd go back into my underwriting and I would make the deal worse. I'd add more conservative assumptions and now it's not a good deal anymore. And then I would pass on it and I'd go to the next one. And I just did that over and over again. And I was stuck. I did that for 2 years. And I remember one of the big turning points for me in taking this from a goal to something that was actionable was that I started listening to podcasts, and I would actually reach out to the guests on the show. And I would say, hey, you were on the podcast. You said to call you if I had any questions. I have questions. I want to make this happen. Help me. And what I found, and I want to encourage your audience to do the same with not just me, but with anyone, because people come on these shows because they want to help. They want to be known. And so for me, by doing that, people came through and they actually helped me. And they said, Alex, you're on the right track. You're doing the right things, but add this to it. Instead of just underwriting and negotiating deals and raising money yourself, focus a little bit more on the networking, because I think you don't have to do everything. Apartments syndication is a team sport. So you keep doing what you're doing, but focus a little bit more on your networking. And sure enough, 9 months later, and it's a coincidence that it's 9 months. It was also 9 months later when my 2-year-old baby was going to be born. It was a week before she was born. I'm a big believer that babies bring blessings with them. And my baby brought a blessing. She brought my first apartment deal. So 1 week before she was born, one of those people that I had been networking called me and they said, Alex, I've got a great deal and I want you to help me raise the money for it and manage the asset. And I said, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm a big believer in destiny. And so that was my first deal. And, it wasn't just like that. I spent weeks underwriting it, questioning his assumptions. I did a background check. I did all these things to make sure this was real. It wasn't just too good to be true. And then I said, okay, let's do this. So after my baby was born, in the middle of those sleepless nights, I'd send out emails in the daytime. I'd hit the phones and try to raise our goals. And we did it. And that was the first one. A year later, we did our second deal. And 6 months later, we got our third one under contract. And And, sky's the limit. We're going to see where we're going to go.
I love it. I love it. I will love it. Congratulations. Congratulations. No, what you're just saying is so true. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people look at my success. It never happened. I say, well, it's overnight success took 14 years, right?
Exactly.
It just took that long. But I'm so proud of you that even after 2 years, you didn't give up. Having a persistive attitude and believing that things will happen, because the key thing is, if you're going through underwriting, and I'm so glad you also mentioned you did ask some person approach you. It's a team effort. You want to make sure there is meeting of mind and trust and everything. So you covered a lot of great things there, really. Yeah. And now you're on the third deal, see, and it's going to go higher and higher with.
Hi, you are listening to Syndication Made Easy podcast. We will be right back after this short break.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Vinney Chopra, and thank you for subscribing to my podcast and YouTube channel and Facebook pages and all the great things, and LinkedIn. Connect with me. I come live to you every Friday at 9:30 Pacific with Vinney and Bo show. Please also look at that. And also the podcast, which is my apartment syndication made easy. The book I wrote a couple of years back became international top seller on Amazon International now. And then we like to bring great guests for you every week or twice a week sometime to give you a lot of great knowledge. So please subscribe. You give us 5-star reviews on the iTunes. The better the guests we can bring, and our ranking will go higher also. Thanks again for following us and really getting the most out of it. Please comment, like, share, because we would love to bring better and better material for you.
And it's going to go higher and higher with where we are right now, 2020, October. I mean, the market is kind of going downward. The interest rates are getting higher, and the cap rate is going to be higher too soon. And the valuation. So a lot more opportunities will be falling in your lap. And as you keep the investors happy, with having the focus of raising money quickly, that's what has been fueling in my growth, Yeah. Tell me more. How do you really motivate yourself? That'll be a good one, and what does it take for you to, yeah.
So I'll say for me, one of the things is community, right? And so one of those first people, and I'll say that again, calling the people that are on these podcasts and actually building those relationships is so meaningful. So I reached out to someone who was, 10 years ahead of me. Yes. And it was great because, I had my prepared list of questions. 1, 2, 3. But then he said, Alex, I'm going to invite you to join this community of entrepreneurs that I'm a part of. And you're going to get excitement. You're going to get encouragement. You're going to get coaching. You're going to get, and it wasn't necessarily, this wasn't an apartment community.
Yeah.
It's just a group of entrepreneurs. And it's amazing. And, I'll say that just as an example, right? When I quit my job, I had some friends who said, you're crazy. It was a federal government job, which is a very stable job with, good benefits and things like that. And some people said, you're crazy. Why would you ever leave a government job? You're set for life. And then when I told some of my friends in this entrepreneur group, they said, it's about time. They didn't even make a big deal out of it. They just said, Alex, you should have quit 2 years ago. You should have quit a long time ago. And they didn't even pat me on the back. They're like, duh, obviously you're going to quit your job. And so being around people who have that same mindset and similar goals and things like that are going to make things that seem crazy and risky they might not seem so crazy or risky when you're in the right group of people. So that kind of helped me to stay motivated, to keep plugging away, because I'm around people who are frankly more successful than me, and I want to get to their level, And so
this is a great nugget, gold nugget you just threw right there, bomb, I would say, because see, we always have heard we are the sum total of 5 people or 7 people around us. The books we read, we know the knowledge more and more from the books and podcasts and all. The big thing is our income will be about average of 5 people. So you got to break that barrier, get out of the box. So I hope listening to us, everybody, please, many people want to do it, but they are not able to. They are just analyzing it too much or finding the right time, right opportunity, right age, whatever you could take. So how did you really go out? I mean, what did it take you? Give us that little something which God said, you know what, I want to go and be with the bigger group of people, not with that thinking change for you, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been a few moments like that, right? Obviously, I'm sure you've heard it before. Like reading Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of those that just
Mm-hmm.
turns the whole world
Mm-hmm.
upside down. I didn't know, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, I wish I had known some of these things. And I want to give my parents credit, right? My dad had already taught me some of that stuff, but to have it
Yeah.
just there's something. So that was one of them. Again, making those calls and just having the courage to just say, hey, I want to be like you. How can I do it? And people
Yeah.
they don't give it all away. They don't have time to, but they do encourage you, and they do say, hey, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
some things right, and here's something else that you can do to improve, right? So that's
Sure.
another one. And then, like I said, taking small actions like underwriting deals and getting feedback
Mm-hmm.
and just
Mm-hmm.
being in the room. And I'll say, like, one of the other ones that was really the most exciting for me was going to my first apartment investing conference, right? Those are
Mm-hmm.
things where,
Yes.
again, now all of a sudden you're in the room, and this way of thinking, this knowledge is commonplace, and it's just
Yes.
wow, okay. And so some of those things, it's also really interesting because one of the most powerful things that I think apartment syndication has done for me in my mentality was to go from a mentality of competitiveness to one of more collaboration, right?
I love that. Love that. Yeah.
Because I remember when I graduated from business school, and I looked at my classmates, and I said, wow, I'm assuming they're all making a lot of money. And I felt like, oh, I went into nonprofit. I made $8,000 my first year after graduating from business school. And I knew it, right? I was doing work that was charitably focused, not on
Mm-hmm.
profit. But I still felt like, hey, maybe it wasn't the best investment because I have all this debt. And I was comparing myself to a lot of my classmates and thinking, oh, I'm the poorest one in the class and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, with apartment syndication,